because every detail we share is another opportunity for someone to kind of see themselves in the person's side. So we want to be just really considerate of those details. I think I got over it. The other part of this is it's okay to show emotion. It's okay to be impacted. Yeah.
So, the last part you said about, you repeat that you don't want people to get ideals, like you're putting it into their head, so what you're saying.
Yeah, so you can ask people if they're thinking about suicide. It's generally not going to be, you're not going to put something in their head that's not already there. I think about, like the celebrities we hear about who died. And there's some shocking thing. And they look so happy. And I think, oh, I look happy, but I have stuff going on. You start, I think that sometimes there's that imagery, or you say, I can see myself in them, and then I can see maybe that's an option for me as well. Or if you're already thinking about that, like if you're already vulnerable, you already have these thoughts, then you can start thinking a little bit more about that. Or, yeah, so it's tricky. Like, no, you're not gonna put thoughts in that aren't already there. But if the thoughts are already there, the exposure to the details can be exacerbate that.
AJ, Black Long County, BTC. We had a vet that came to us and, let's just say certain waivers had to be signed and stuff to get him in there because there's charges and whatnot. And, he proved everybody wrong. He did everything every suggestion I was asking. I mean, he did, physical therapy bath, he went to Texas, he graduated the program, he became a star, client. And he was in MRT, he did all the VA psychology things he was doing. He had a fiance, said to get married, graduated, as I said, graduated our program. And then one day we get the call that he committed suicide. And during our investigation and whatnot, it turned out that he went to MRT that day. He went to see a therapist at the VA that day. There was no indications or nothing that was going on. I mean, he was set to get married that month, the next month. And he went home and by the time he sent, he sent a goodbye letter. By the time they got to the family farm, he was already gone. And in the note, to summarize, he said, I always felt like Jekyll and Hyde, and I'm on a good note, and I want to go out on a good note before Hyde comes out. And it really, I mean, everybody in the whole treatment court, the VA, every organization he was involved in, kind of stepped up, and our judge took it pretty hard as well. And we brought his family in to court that day. All our vet court clients were called in, whether they were on their tail or not. Were called in. His family's fiance was there, and everybody got a chance to speak to see counseling. And even, the afterwards, during treatment of graduation, his family was brought up on stage, and the mentors and everybody got a chance to be recognized. A year later, we chose to plant a tree in his honor at the local park, you know what I mean, keep everything fresh in everybody's mind, and it kind of changed the way some of us have, the way we seek mental health. We see someone get depressed or, selling a motorcycle that they like riding, we immediately, if we can't send them to the GA and say, you need to force treatment, we say, hey, we know you're not working right now, we want you to go to volunteer services. We want you to be involved with other people, try to get you involved, try to get eyes on them, do everything we can to try to keep the veteran engaged. It's changed a lot, especially since there's no precursors to the event. Took us all really hard.
I think that's a great example that we never know who's struggling. And some of them look just fine. And so that gets to a lot of our minds, that we're trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. And you can see how many people
Not easy.
were impacted in that.
Take my
So some of the same messaging, things just to touch on quickly, talking about suicide, and help change perceptions, dispel myths, talk about the complexities, encourage help seeking. So kind of your example right there, like, it's great talking about. I bet if I asked for a show of hands, the number of people who were impacted by suicide loss here would be quite high. So the more we can talk about it, the more we can, decrease that stigma. Trying to be mindful of terminology, so we use terms like died by suicide or suicide death rather than committed suicide. Be informative about sharing details. Emphasize that suicide is complex. There is generally no single cause. We want to show stories of hope and recovery that people can and do get better. We want to provide resources. So initial post-vention support, we're going to be offering condolences. Think about what you would say if somebody lost somebody for any other cause. Provide some education on what's normal, normal reactions to suicide loss, provide support, opportunities to talk about the loss, encourage people to take care of themselves. Just offer resources. So we also know that people grieve and take in information differently. So like our website has some videos. There's other people prefer to read, other people want to talk about it. So trying to get a sense of what a loss survivor needs, what their style of living is. We're going to continue offering support. So that first 6 months, we're going to continue to reach out, providing information about resources, options for support. We're going to bring in natural opportunities to come together. So thinking about, I think that example there, in your treatment court, that's likely a natural place that you can bring people together. You go out to lunch, you organize a fun, and then that person's on there. Just giving people an opportunity to be together. And for memorials, just make sure those are consistent with deaths by other causes. There's some research about contagion and clusters that we want to make sure that we're treating suicide deaths similar in the way we're responding to them, but that we're also offering that specialized support because we know it can increase suicide risk. 6 months, a year, 18 months later, we want to keep providing support. We also want to provide support and ongoing. So, International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day is in November. Suicide Prevention Month is September. So those are some good annual times to just think about the people we've lost to suicide. Maybe those are some chances to do a little bit more suicide prevention education. So, make it a little bit more interactive. You receive a voicemail Monday morning that over the weekend one of your treatment court participants died of suicide. You're the first person to be informed. This person's been actively engaged in the treatment court, was well known and liked by both the court team and your peers. You're the post-vention point of contact. You don't have a team, but you have a supportive leadership, and they ask you to take the lead in initiating a response.
This reflects an experience that I actually went through a few years ago. It was kind of this. I wasn't in charge of informing the family, because that's not my role. But we did inform all of the participants. I was in charge of 119 letters at that time, and instead of going out, I'm pretty sure everybody bought that we had our meetings. Everybody knew. But that meeting was specifically called Shop was talking about now. How do you feel about that? What your feelings are over time. And, that was a very, very healing session. But on top of that too, that they helped identify everybody in the group who was feeling a little more sensitive toward it and, the other guys actually didn't.
So it sounds like that was a positive feeling experience. Anything you do differently? Yeah.
I wouldn't do anything differently simply for the fact that they're the representative with it, with it, right? Like we honored his memory, but we also talked about the loss of one of our brothers, and his mentor was in the movie as well. So he took it a little bit harder, so we were able to actually decide after the meeting and we had one time.
Did everyone hear that?
Since there's a VJO assigned to the court, do they have to do a team
I think that's gonna be different per court. I mean, right now it's different for VA. I think it's also challenging because, at least with the VA, the releases of information and, so we can't provide any information about the cause of death. But we also know that people will know.
The court
Yeah.
and all veterans there.
So,
So as part of the prevention,
Inspection services, but they still. It's on silent. So I think it would be reaching out to, the local jail, asking them what services are available.
It's on Do Not Disturb.
They are now, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, you're probably involved in this, but they have these groups now that are talking about how to, after the fact, and so what happened, and this is nationwide, the VA is pushing, like these action groups to, and I'm trying to think of the acronym, SAS or something, suicide. But it's about what happened and what can we do to be better prepared and help, and what do we do after? So, and it's, yeah, depending on, of course, it's still growing, we're trying to get better at it, but as a nation, not me, I don't work for the VA, but you know what I mean? And again, we're all learning, just like with vet course, just like with mentor programs, it's different in every area, we're all trying to figure it all out.
And I think we also want to separate out like the analysis of why this happened from the support. So I think both are important. Ideally, we want to lead with the support. Who's impacted? How do we support you through the loss? And then kind of we can look at, are there any strategies that we can implement for the future? But we want to really take away, I think those are really helpful and people can feel blamed and like I didn't do enough. So we want to make sure that we're leading with the compassion. But yeah, there's a lot of efforts to kind of analyze.
My job had to do death notifications. And one of the most important things I learned was make sure that you have the right information. This is asking a lot of questions. And it's okay to say, I need to know. And sometimes it's also good to go before you go, to make sure that you have all your information and make sure that if you're going to notify somebody, have their support there before you leave. Make sure you stay as long as they need you. And you have their support there before you leave and make sure there's something else they need before you leave that area. And like I said, if there's a question they ask, I don't know, or we will get you the answer. But if you tell them you will get the answer, make sure you get the answer to you.
Yeah. Great advice.
It's the suicide post-vention awareness event. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, that's okay. You got your right.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
My cousin took her life on the anniversary of the day her son died. And he took his life on the birthday of his favorite musician who died from suicide. And this other people on either his birthday or the anniversary date of his death. Or, you know, planning an event, getting people out of isolation, you know, thinking about what happens in the future on those dates is probably a good idea.
Yeah, you're right on, especially,
Kind of thing.
yeah, and thinking, asking each person what dates are most significant. It could be the anniversary date, it might be their birthday, could be Father's Day, Mother's Day, depending on that person. So, yeah, looking out for, especially if you've seen a pattern.
If I could, Billy Zielinski from Clarksville, just north of here. In 1995, I had a plan that if I didn't fulfill on this military school, and I don't want to reveal what it is, I don't want to encourage somebody towards that, but I had a plan. And so what we didn't know in the military, and we still don't know, it's still, and outside the military, is it's okay to ask somebody all of the hard questions. If their eyes are revealing something, ask. Because it makes a person feel good to be asked, to just inquire and then shut up. Like literally, that class on listening, just sit and listen. If it's an hour or two, 30 hours, just sit there and listen. But even though I had a plan, the scary part was what to do if I came to have to implement what I wanted from my plan. Like, fulfilling on that is super scary, which is why most people take alcohol, because now you don't have that fear factor, right? Because then they want to fulfill on the plan. The issues in the 110 suicides in the Army in 2022, 68 of them were in the Corps that I was part of. And I got tired of all the leadership just showing up and getting really good at executing a little flyer and go, everybody get it, and talk about what everybody's gonna get, and all that kind of thing, and like doing the honors and putting a boot on top of a gun. And I had a very ignorant general officer. So I'm saying this is we must build rapport and challenge people that say ignorant things. And by ignorant, I mean uninformed. And I don't say a person's ignorant. I'm saying their mental model is not informed, to be clear. I do not agree with putting people down. But this man in his ignorance had a belief. And he said publicly, to the influence of 90,000 people, this person will not get a service to honor the fact that they killed themselves. And I said, sir, you're wrong. That if you choose, you lose access to something after death. And that is absolutely a lie. And I told him that's a lie, right? And what we decided to do was make a difference. And so now I want to shift into what's useful, if I could, for just a minute. What we found was useful in the 100 or so suicides in the Army alone, active Army, I'm not talking about retirees and veterans, was every single one of them, mostly there was no indicator. There was no letter, there was no, and just like my best friend killed himself, there was no notice. We talked every day, right? It's very seldom we're gonna have signs and warnings or indications and warnings if you're an intelligence person in the intelligence field, right? We're always looking for intelligence and warning. There's usually gonna be zero warnings because the person's gonna be so hopeful to get into their plan, right? Because, oh, I have hope. Now I can be out of my misery, right? And so they might occur as happy at the very end, and then you're really surprised. They seem to be happy. But there's a way to get through that actually really, really works. Is we notice that almost all of the cases, and most of the cases are gonna be men, almost all those cases, there's a significant other. Girlfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend and boyfriend, several girlfriends, whatever it is. Married with girlfriends. That person is displaying that they don't know their identity. They don't know who they are. And so if that thing that they placed all of their hope in is gone, now they feel like they don't have hope. So if my hope leaves me, what do I have left? Nothing. That's the mind of a person who's contemplating a plan for suicide. If I lose everything I have, that's not everybody's mind. some people's mind, most of the people's minds that I examined out of the thousands, right? So I'm empirically telling you data out of thousands of people that we examined in the pooled military, they didn't know their identity of who they are. And so this other thing that was fulfilling for them, once that was removed, then they wanted to fulfill in this plan that they had. And if you had asked them about, do you have a plan? Many people in the post-vention will surface, oh my God, that person kills up, I'm thinking about it too, right? So if you ask the questions, is anybody in here thinking about it? Or get somebody to tell their story that I was once thinking about it, people will go, well, so have I, right? And all of a sudden everybody feels encouraged to share. And now that secret thing is gone, and usually that makes it go away because somebody can relate. So if we learn how to relate, you can help it go away. That's one strategy. But we're not all counselors, right? So how do you help build the identity? But say, okay, you don't know who you are, but tell that to your person that you work with every week at Veteran Treatment Corps, because they get a counselor and they'll help them then get their identity from.
You don't need to be a counselor.
Right.
You just need to be kind and compassionate. We're not all good at talking about death, whatever that death is. I know I've lost people in my life, and I've had a variety of experiences. People who will sit and listen anytime I want to talk about it, and people who are like, that's too upsetting, I don't want to talk about that. You mentioned your leadership in the military. Not everyone knows how to do this or isn't comfortable themselves. So meeting people like you all who can be kind, compassionate, know what it's like to have thoughts of suicide or to lose someone to suicide, and say, hey, how are you doing? What can I do to support you?
Just a quick question on, we recently had a veteran die, as a means of relapse, whether it was suicide or not, who knows, but one thing that showed us is that our DPC is completely ill-prepared for something like this. You guys come in, and I'm lucky because we're in Denver, but if you guys come in and will you help us prepare a post-clinical?
Yes. Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about our service afterwards, but yeah, if you are working with veterans in any capacity, our team can talk with you about setting up a post-vention plan, or if you don't have one, and something like that happens, like how can you go about doing that? So, and you brought up a good point about overdose loss. And I'm guessing that is something that you all experience as well. And sometimes we don't know if those overdoses are suicide or not. There is some research that there's a lot of comparable effects of suicide loss and overdose loss. There's a bit of a difference in suicide risk. So we know that people who die by suicide or lose somebody to suicide are at greater risk for suicide themselves. Still, the research on overdose loss is a little bit less than suicide loss. We know that there's more depression and more greater chance for prolonged grief disorder. So just want to acknowledge the overdose losses as well, because that can often be a confusing area.
I have a question for the mentors. If you all are trained in the Columbia suicide training, because it's non-clinical, it's intended for anybody to provide, and it's really helpful because it's red, yellow, green, so it's easy to follow. If something you guys do a certain way, what the next step is, and how to, and then practicing and how to ask the question. I'm just curious if that's part of something to.
We did suicide training. I don't know if it was that. And one thing that really stuck out to me was like what he said was asking hard questions. Do you feel like you want to take it? Do you feel like this well? What's going on?
Good training.
Yeah, this training can be a good one too. Can't tell you what it stands for right now, but folks are looking for more suicide training
Did you ever go to a training? Suicide? No,
Just you guys have taken care of
no, I did the
yourself.
army, the suicide, substance
Maybe
abuse.
you once thought that you still have that, the 5 stages of grief. That doesn't really fly anymore. We know that grief is a lot more messier. Not linear. So we tend to look at, more healing milestones rather than these stages. Each person's grief trajectory is different. There's no real predictable pattern or timetable. So I guess just give yourself some compassion and grace for your own personal journey. And talk about anniversaries, so anniversaries, loss, or moments of setbacks. And I'm sharing this because if you do have a death in your treatment support, you may be supporting other people, but it's also important that you walk the walk on this one. That you're taking care of yourself as you support others. So you've probably heard some of these suggestions before, so just a reminder, it's important to reach out to any sort of support system that works with you. And showing up for yourself, you know what you need. You know, some people will, that structure, continuing things as usual will be really helpful. Other people, need a break. So know what you need, and take care of that. Take that for yourself. Physical self-care, exercise, eating regular meals. Sleep is often a barometer of how we're doing, so that's a helpful one to pay attention to. Do things you enjoy, be mindful of extremes, set those boundaries, and practice self-compassion. We do find that over time, people experience some growth after loss. So we can have gratitude towards other aspects of life, improved relationships and empathy. We might be even better at identifying suicide risk in other people. We can reduce stigma, open that conversation about it. And I hope that just having this session today will help encourage you guys to have conversations about this. What are you doing in your own settings to support people after loss? And then again, new possibilities that giving back, supporting others who are grieving, advocating. If your site doesn't have any post-vention services, what can you do to say, hey, we need this. This is really important. And kind of practical ways to start. I think it can be really challenging to say, what do I do? What do I say? I'm not sure what to say. And I think that's exactly the things you say is, I don't know what to say. There's nothing I can say right now to make this better, but I want you to know I'm here for you. Think about how you would respond if the person lost someone for any other cause. Start there. Helpful things to say, just acknowledge the loss, use the person's name when possible. Just say, I'm so sorry for the loss. Just hit on this one, be genuine. I really don't know what to say. Let yours be the non-ironic. Offer your support. I can imagine it's really surreal being back here. Let me know how I can support you. Or even better, hey, can I take this off your plate today? Can I help with, some tangible tasks? Try not to make them come up with the ways to help you, give them some options. And ask how they're feeling. And don't let that first conversation about it be your last one. Make sure, I think there's a lot of support in the first few weeks after a loss, and then it sort of dissipates, and that person is really grieving